Johannesburg, the throbbing heart of South Africa, in fact the engine of the continent. There are dramatic changes happening here, and as a result, economic growth is running at close to 6%. 12 years after the white rule era of apartheid, South Africa's educated blacks are pushing ahead. It's estimated that 100,000 a year are entering the middle class. On a Friday night, this is where many spend their time, in Soweto, a township infamous for poverty and violence, where some are getting rich.
Basically, you know, it's people that are running their own companies. What we've created is a networking platform where they meet, exchange ideas, you know, over drinks, though they spend much long hours, and they spend a lot of money in the process. Yeah.
South Africa's changing social dynamic is not good for everyone. These Afrikaners, who enjoyed social and economic privilege during apartheid, are now near the bottom of the pile.
We are fighting for our language, we are fighting for jobs. So my feeling is that we are only fighting all the time to survive.
Thousands of white South Africans rely on charity to live. Betsy Dreyer has been running this community centre for 8 years, and she's almost run off her feet.
I think there must be much more job opportunities for the people like my people here, lots more. And that we must be aware that they mustn't be discriminating against them. It seems just to me that the thing is not in balance anymore.
Kiewit Wolfert was a public servant when whites ran South Africa. Now he and his wife Santa, who was also retrenched from a government job, have barely a thread left of their old lives. Only their creativity is keeping them going. In part, they blame government policies, which give black people priority in employment, set black quotas and favour black-owned companies.
I don't know really that much about the racism, but I was the first one to go out, and then the others just followed.
Why do you think you were chosen to be retrenched?
I think they tell us we are whites. They don't give us work, so they give it to other people, other races also.
We don't have a chance. You can go and look for a job. They tell you, they phone you back, and you never hear again from them.
Millions of black South Africans still live in squatter camps. 1/3 of the population has no electricity. Running water and housing are limited. This was once an exclusively black domain. But as new middle-class blacks move into the wealthy white suburbs, the poor whites are joining poor blacks in poverty.
There's a lot of people struggling, but it's ons beurt. The blacks always had to struggle.
Johan Devenaher lost his legs last year when he says he was pushed from a train. Now he can't get work. He gets a tiny pension, but he's forced to make up the difference collecting cans for recycling. Home is a squatter camp with 14 others, white and black. It's a big change from his once relatively comfortable life during apartheid.
We had meat, we had money, there was no struggling. We didn't have problems. It was lekker, it was nice. Elke ding was sharp. Now times are changing. You know what's happening.
Four and a half million white South Africans make up about 10% of the population. Most whites are Afrikaners, many from rural areas, and they're said to be less entrepreneurial than British South Africans, partly because of their previously protected existence in the lower levels of the public service. It's the Afrikaners who are the worst affected by the government's determination to make the workforce better reflect the population. Many are now being forced to rely on soup kitchens to survive. White unemployment has risen by almost 200% in 5 years. The trade union Solidarity is helping to feed the most desperate in the white population.
We think, unfortunately, the situation is that the current government that we had has in the past said they fought for a non-racial society free of racial discrimination. And what we see now is the same kind of system that we had in the past. It's just being implemented by other people, and it is a racially driven society we see more and more.
Solidarity was formed from the remnants of the Mine Workers Union, which campaigned hard to keep both low-skilled Afrikaners and black people out of the workforce during the apartheid years. Now it's lobbying against affirmative action.
Do you understand how ironic it sounds for white South Africans to complain about a government being racially motivated, considering the history here?
Yeah, well, but from our side, we also see it ironic that a government that fought against racial legislation is now doing exactly the same what they fought against.
The ANC, formerly a group of freedom fighters, came to power promising to create a non-racial society. But there's now declared discrimination on the basis of colour.
You cannot have transformation without pain. You cannot.
Isn't black economic empowerment, though, in itself a racist policy?
Why?
Well, because it's about race. The entire policy is race-based.
I don't know. Why don't you look at our constitution?
Well, the very phrase black economic empowerment implies that it's race-based. Are you saying it's not?
We had an apartheid policy that was declared a crime against humanity. Now, either we reproduce apartheid, or we move and we change. And we change to a non-racial society. But to move to a non-racial society, you've got to empower those who for more than 350 years had been systematically disempowered, systematically oppressed, systematically repressed, systematically deprived of every single possibility to grow. Now, how are you going to do that without taking a position?
Actually, some don't need the help. Kabelo Sekawati has worked his way into the middle class without being directly assisted by the government.
Guess what you're gonna have? An egg.
He's a qualified engineer. His wife Busi has an MBA from the United States. They're focused on the future and getting a private school education for their children.
You want some, you want some, you want some.
You guys are eating a lot of gold.
You're gonna play golf.
The Sekawatis are the only black family in this complex, which is secure behind walls that usually represent white affluence in South Africa.
I think one of the benefits of being a black man at this stage in our history is that the opportunities that never existed, that were not exposed to black people, are now exposed. Black people and new black middle classes coming up because now we can earn what we are qualified for.
Busi and Cabello are running a home interior business, trying to tap into the disposable income of the growing middle class.
Hello. Hi. Hi, how am I? Good morning. Just come through.
They've had no preferential treatment from the government for being black.
Hi, Mike. You've met my wife, Busi. Hi. This is Mike.
Oh, nice meeting you too, Mike.
Okay, please take a seat, Mike.
We rely on the feet that walk around here to come in and buy, which are basically is a challenge that each and every business is facing.
Do you like the layout?
But they understand and agree with black economic empowerment.
The number of black people, companies in the stock exchange in South Africa is less than 3%, and it's not growing. The economy is still in the hands of a few. The land is still in the hands of the few. The few controls the media. The few controls everything.
Living in South Africa, you get used to the walls, which have become a symbol of affluence. Behind them are mostly well-off whites, who are still much more likely to have well-paying jobs than black people here. Many of them still have black domestic workers like cooks and gardeners. But even so, up to 60% of black people remain unemployed.
I don't feel that people are anti-white, but I feel that white people have put themselves in a corner where they fail to mingle with African people because they look at themselves as a different class as a whole, whereas in a normal society, class will be defined by income and education, but in South Africa, your class is defined by the color of your skin.
We are not saying we are blind towards the imbalances in our society. There's a huge imbalances at the moment. You have a rich grouping, but then the poor that are getting poorer by the day. And we say if you want to eradicate these imbalances, don't focus on race, focus on poverty.
If affirmative action is not based on socio-economic conditions, what do you think it's based on?
White people who are poor are not covered under BEE, are they?
What do you understand by socio-economic conditions?
Well, I'm talking about people living in poverty,
yes.
clearly.
And where's the overwhelming majority of people?
Look, I'm well aware that...
No, I'm asking.
No, I'm well aware
you see, because
that most poor people in South Africa are black.
I think
what I'm asking is...
I don't want to fight with you, but your questions are wrong because all you're doing...
They're questions.
No,
they can't
but all
be wrong.
you're sitting here and you're sitting here and worried about whites. I mean, no, man, sorry. Sorry. Our real fundamental concerns must be the millions of our people who are living under conditions of poverty and underdevelopment. And
Some
are
of whom
Africans,
are white.
Yes, but the overwhelming majority, 80–90% are Africans, living in rural areas, living in the townships here. You're sitting here, and all your questions is about the whites. Sorry, you know, I mean, you may use it, you don't want to use it, it's up to you. I don't find it acceptable.
Being told that you ask politically incorrect questions goes with the territory here. The South African media rarely challenges the government. It's clear that a group of people who were protected by the system no longer are in the so-called Rainbow Nation.
Now it's turned around. Now it's for blacks and not for whites. It's the colour of our skin is not right.
And that's the way it's going to be, as long as the overwhelming majority of people are poor and black.